The PS1 is a powerhouse for RPGs, that's for sure. Nobody's going to deny that one. And the trick with RPGs is that some of them are super long, right? Well, here you go. Let me tell you 5 of the longest PS1 RPGs that are out there. Grandia. Ooh-wee, people sure love this game. And I've never beaten it. Shame, shame. I was so freaking stoked when this game came out. And part of the reason was because of the graphics. The PS1 was taking a wild turn toward 3D graphics at the time, and Sony of America was really pushing this. While the game does have 3D backgrounds, they have actual pixel sprites. I love pixel art! There's actually quite a bit of information regarding the development of this game, and how it actually started on the Saturn. You know, blah blah blah, all that good stuff, but we can save that for another day. Let's quickly consider this game and talk about the length. Grandia has everything I love. It's the story of some kids that are seemingly coming of age, and they stumble across some trouble, and everything gets wildly deep story-wise along the way. It goes from being a super kidsy, innocent sort of game to some real-life altering consequences sort of stuff. I adore when a game starts out this way, or a movie, or a book, or whatever. It's cliche, I guess, at this point, but I can't help it. I like it. It's such a cool art for storytelling. Gameplay-wise, good news, the monsters are visible on the playfield.
Standing ovation.
The length of the game, honestly, doesn't have to do with slow combat or anything like that. Thank God. It's just that it's a sprawling adventure, covering a considerable amount of time in multiple continents in this game's world, spanning from childhood innocence and adventure to the responsibility of the children to save the world. Despite its length, it's rather well paced, and the story embraces character growth for many of its characters, giving you considerable time with all party members beyond just the 2 main protagonists, Justin and Sue. It is a widely loved game, and for good reason. It seems to be enjoyed by both fans and critics, so the considerable time it requires to beat this game is likely a worthy investment. While the PlayStation 1 game is, of course, expensive, there's an HD collection that contains this game and the second game available for download on the Nintendo Switch currently. There are a few physical copies out there throughout PlayAsia and Limited Run, so there's that option as well. Limited Run, of course, is no longer in production and thus extremely expensive.
Too expensive!
Your best legal bet is likely to just get the HD collection on the Switch, but clocking in at 42 hours, it's a pretty stout game. You're probably going to get your money's worth out of that one. Arc the Lad 2. Arc the Lad 2 is a pretty meaty RPG experience. This game certainly isn't a weekend endeavor, that's for sure. The Arc series is one that I've always meant to get into. I should have bought that collection years ago, and I just didn't. Whoops. It's pricey now. But my interest in playing the games, it keeps waning. While it's not as simple as a game like Ys where it's a continuing story, and you can just jump into anywhere, Arc the Lad 2 is actually just a straight-up continuation of the first story. Despite the access the game might give in terms of backstory, so you can jump in, I think I'd feel compelled to go through these in order. And there's just so many of them, and many of them are long. Only the first Arc the Lad game is a bit short. The rest are beastly.
Hey, keep it in the circuit!
I do love the pixel art style of the game, that's for sure, and I love tactical RPGs, so there's a lot of appeal here. Apparently this game has a pretty dark tone as well, which I can always appreciate. The game starts pretty linear, but opens up further along, as traversal goes from area to area in the first game to actual maps that you travel in this one. Adding to the thickness of this game is the ability to level armor and synthesize items. This alone makes sense why the game is so long. If you're just going to be breezing through a 10 to 15 hour game, is it really necessary to have all these wild advancement systems? Likely not, honestly, but since the game is nearly 50 hours long, that makes a lot of sense. The battles don't ask you to always bring the same character or same number of characters, which is a neat concept, but that likely means that some characters will get crazy strong while others fall behind in experience. Another slightly off thing for me about Arc 2 is the lack of English voice acting to accompany the text in battle. Of course, I understand not doing a full English dub for normal text boxes, but as for the typical stuff people shout in combat over and over, that probably should have been re-recorded in English, honestly. I mean, particularly for an English audience, right? Either way, it's a long one, but it's not the longest on this list. It's definitely a game that you can sink your teeth into and get a major experience out of it. It was well received for its time and was noted for improving on the systems and setup of the first game. While the graphics are almost exactly like Part 1, about everything else in this game is improved. If you're looking for some old school tactical RPG love, and you've already played through Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Ogre, this might be the one that you consider. It clocks in at around 47 and a half hours. Whoa, give me it. And it just gets longer from there. Oof. Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. Now listen, Persona's not my cup of tea, unfortunately. But I know it is Kool-Aid for a lot of folks. Released in 2000, the events of Eternal Punishment unfolds in the fictional Japanese city of Sumaru and serves as a direct sequel to Persona 2 Innocent Sin. This is all set a few months after the events of Innocent Sin, and the game follows the journey of Mayo Amano, a reporter who becomes embroiled in the dark and mysterious Joker curse. This curse is a weird and, I guess, evil phenomenon where people's wishes and rumors materialize, causing chaos and disruption. Maya, along with other allies who join her, discovers the power to summon personas, manifestations of their inner selves. This stuff all makes sense. If everyone's desires or whatever manifested suddenly, there'd be a lot of conflict going around. It's kind of like a version of the Purge or something. As the desire, well, yeah, your desire to be alive and another's desire to kill you, those things kind of conflict at times. The gameplay of Eternal Punishment revolves around turn-based battles where characters utilize their personas, the things they discovered in their mysterious trick here, to engage in combat against demons. Additionally, the game introduces this rumor system, which is kind of unique. This plays a role in shaping the events of the story in the game. As the rumors spread throughout the city, they influence the outcomes of situations, either for the character's benefits or, on the other end, their detriment. I suppose this is comparable to like building character relationships in other RPGs and world tendency in Demon Souls or something. It actually does affect the world in a notable way. At least I hear so. A rumor has it.
I heard a rumor.
Folks, I'm asking you, have mercy on me, but I've never played a Persona game. And it's not for a lack of perceived quality or anything like that. The art style and sprites are crazy appealing, but I can't bring myself to play them for some reason. Maybe it has something to do with the length of the games. These games are typically super long. I know they are highly regarded as some of the best RPGs out there, but I have not caught that bug yet, so to speak. I'm just not invested yet. I know I need to eventually get around to Persona 5, as it's apparently one of the best RPGs of all time. It's on my list. It's there. I just haven't gotten to it yet. It's just farther down. I think it's due to the length that it takes to beat it. Either way, this game is also crazy long, right? But if you're into this series, you're not going to be unfamiliar with the length. This game is no slouch on content, and it'll take you about 50 hours to beat it. Ooh. But there's more! Xenogears. Xenogears starts pretty stereotypically enough. It starts with exile from your home village, which has been destroyed. The protagonist works to discover the source of his inner torment, as well as the issues that plague the world around him. This is a futuristic RPG that deals with the remnants of a past civilization. They use these gears, which are basically like robots, for the usual machinations humanity typically would, like combat or mundane tasks in villages. As the game progresses, it becomes super dark and super deep, calling on religion, questioning and challenging the status quo dogma, stuff like that. Combat is super active and honestly, sort of unique for the time. It's about martial arts, but it's not an action RPG, I guess. On your turn, you get so many points to do moves, and button presses are how you implement those moves, which doesn't sound that much different than any other game, but look. A combination of triangle, square, and X give different moves, and this costs different points. It's super engaging as far as combat goes. This game is heralded among many RPG lovers as one of the best RPGs out there, particularly one of the best RPGs for the PS1.
Sweet berry wine!
I've not played too much of the game, but I intend to get into it eventually. A turn-off for me, of course, has been the length. But there's also this repeated apologetics from fans about the second disc sort of just dropping off in quality. The game is complete, but apparently funding became an issue later on. Not to be a did you know-ish sort of thing at the time, but this plot was actually pitched for Final Fantasy VII, and they thought it was too dark for a Final Fantasy game. Oh, must be pretty rough. Unfortunately, buying the game outside of the original, which is, of course, expensive because it's a PS1 RPG, it's only available for purchase on the PSP, the Vita, and the PS3 to my knowledge. And who knows how long that'll even be there. You have to actually boot up your PS3 to buy this. It's not on PS4, PS5 at the moment. If this changes, wonderful. Let me know in the comments. Let's cross our fingers for a release for the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. Kind of like we got with Legend of Dragoon. I mean, crazier things have happened, right? Again, if there's another option out there for this game, let me know. Xenogears is 56.5 hours long. Woo! Before we get to the longest RPG for the PS1, which, if you're an avid RPG fan, you likely already know what it is, I have some caveats to know and throw in here. Kingdom Hearts 2 wasn't on the list, but it's super close to the length of Grandia. And honestly, I'd just rather talk about Grandia as I'm a little more familiar with it. Perhaps I can talk about Kingdom Hearts 2 another day. After Grandia, it could have been Final Fantasy Origins if you wanted to count both games as one entry. But I don't, so I didn't.
Sassy!
I already noted in the video that Arc the Lad 2 was one of the longest games at 47.5 hours, but Arc the Lad 3 was also longer than Grandia. However, I don't want to talk about Arc the Lad 2 times on this short list, so I avoided it. Arc the Lad 3 takes about 43 hours to beat. Honestly, you're probably going to be mad at me. I'm kind of sorry, I'm kind of not sorry. But the next game on the list would have been Digimon World 2, clocking in at around 65 hours. But I don't want to talk about Digimon World 2 because I just don't care. I just don't care about Digimon World. It's simply not for me. Now, not every game on this short list is for me, but by far I cared the least about Digimon World 2. When I was going for a complete collection of games for the PS1, I literally prioritized every game, even sports games, over Digimon World. I'm not mad at it. I didn't play it and have a bad experience or anything. I just have zero interest in it. Zero interest. I mean, again, shame on me, right? If you think you can convince me otherwise, that these PlayStation 1 Digimon games are worth sinking dozens of hours into, I'm receptive. I mean, I'll listen. But at the moment, I just don't care. Sorry. But finally, the longest PS1 RPG, and no real surprise here, right, is Dragon Quest VII, or Dragon Warrior 7, or Dragon Quest VII Fragments of a Forgotten Past. I say no real surprise about Dragon Quest VII being the longest RPG for the PS1, but there is a surprise in the number of hours just to beat this game. It's insane.
That's a huge
Now, if you're like me and you grew up with some of these old RPGs, you're probably like, whatever, 50 hours is nothing, as we max the 99-hour mark on lots of older games, right? But many of those hours were voluntary, or me running to the kitchen to get, I don't know, pizza rolls or something. This game, though, ooh, holy smokes, it is a mammoth of a game. Again, this is one that I have never finished, but I did play it when it was released, and I played it on the 3DS when it was released. It's just daunting how much content is in this game. The gameplay is basically, Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior turn-based RPG stuff, and you play as a hero that goes to some ancient ruins and discovers some information about these mysterious islands that are around your hometown. The heroes get transported to each of these islands, and there they have to confront evil and conquer it. There's a job system, that's really cool, and that's no slouch in itself as far as hours go, thank goodness. And this allows for some super customization of your characters. And of course, any game with a job system is a recipe for a time-sucking black hole, which I love. The graphics setup here feels like the precursor to the beautiful HD 2D games that we've been getting, like Octopath Traveler and Live Alive, or Live a Live, or whatever. And soon we're going to get a Dragon Quest remake in the same art style. You have these beautiful 2D sprites on 3D backgrounds, and it's a lovely style in itself, though apparently it was criticized when it came out. Some critics thought it looked aged at that point. Whatever. I think it's pretty. This game had so much anticipation about it before it landed, and so many wild things about the reception after it came out. Of course, every Dragon Quest game since continues the tradition of making waves in the world, so that's not a huge surprise, but even scratching the surface of research on this game is so interesting. If this is something you'd like to hear some more of, let me know. I think I'd be down to make a video about the reception of this game and development and how that all went, because it's really quite interesting. I digressed. Back to the stuff. The reason we're here is to talk about lengthy, hulking RPGs, and this is the longest for the PS1. HowLongToBeat.com notes it at 78 hours, which is massive, but many people suggest that it takes around 100 hours to comfortably beat this game, and that's without any sort of side quest or anything. If you were to try and complete this game, it suggests that it would take around 150 hours. This is a titanic game, folks, and it is not for the faint-hearted. I love talking about video games, particularly RPGs and retro games, so if you're into that, I'd love to have you around. I plan to make a video on the shortest PS1 RPGs for the PS1, so stay tuned for that. I've already made a video on the shortest and longest RPGs for the Super Nintendo. Thank you so much for watching my content. Feel free to share any thoughts you have regarding these games in the comments. I read every single comment because gaming discourse is important, and we should continue.